fear's blind eye. Your mind to rot. Either way is sure to be exploring a new mystery. Reaching the darkest of abyss. Don't run if you hear a hiss. Push yourself until you break. Find yourself in a fear-filled lake. Be quick to take control. You and darkness now betrothed. Live life and confront your fears. Feel the adrenaline, fight back tears.
What's up, guys? My name is Alan, and I'm here with Untold Paranormal. So, a lot of people have been asking here and there about my origin stories, about why I got started in the paranormal. And I figured, what better time and place to explain that to you guys than at the season premiere here at Indiana State Sanatorium. Right now I am up on the 5th floor of Adams Hall. This is where they kept, or supposedly kept, the violent male psych patients. I decided to come one of the most notorious spots and one of the most notorious buildings and give the story, because a lot of times it's when we get vulnerable that things begin to happen. So here it goes. I first started getting started in the paranormal when I was a kid. You know, like probably most of you, I was hooked on the paranormal shows. And back then there was only really one when I was a kid, and that was Ghost Hunters. I loved the first couple seasons of Taps, where they were constantly debunking stuff, constantly trying to explain stuff away. That to me was so appealing, because I had so many like random odd experiences as a kid that watching their show I was able to look back at those experiences and say, maybe it was just a creaky house, maybe it was just, you know, I went exploring in an abandoned house one time with my dad, and we both got so creeped out that my dad basically dragged me out of there. It's like, now when I look back, it's like, maybe it was just the creep factor, the fear factor of being in an abandoned place, much like this. This place is definitely creepy. Now, whether that's to spirits or whether that's just the way it feels and knowing what all happened here, then I'll leave that up to you guys with all this footage. So that's what started my sense of wanting to be active in the paranormal. When I turned around 17, I got involved in a local paranormal group in Terre Haute called the Indiana Ghost Trackers. And we would go to kind of more calm places, like covered bridges that were supposedly haunted. We went to, I think it was Mauger's restaurant in Terre Haute that was supposedly haunted. But they were more of a laid back kind of group that were just interested in going in places and kind of wanting a scare but not wanting to be too scared. I wanted more, and it just didn't kind of fit with me. Now, by all means, that group may fit for some of you. It just wasn't for me, because I wanted more. And so I actually lost interest a bit in the paranormal or doing it myself for a few years after that. Um, we moved into a new house, and this house was probably my first experience of living in a haunted house. There weren't that many odd things happening, but the three of us living there, within a year of moving there, all of our health like went downhill. Um, and I would, there were just spots in the house that you didn't want to go to, especially in the basement. There was one room in particular in the basement that none of us just wanted to go to. I mean, we used it for storage for stuff that we knew we'd probably never need. And to this day, when we moved out of the house, we didn't take that stuff with us. Most of it was just like scrap wood, stuff like that. Then my parents moved out of the house. I decided to stay there. And I stayed there by myself for probably 2 years. And that's when my health really like plummeted. I started shaking. It started with my legs shaking constantly, and eventually, by the time I moved out 2 years later, I had entire body shakes constantly so bad that I couldn't hardly eat. I remember specifically one time going to Hacienda and thinking, fajita sounds really good, so I got a fajita. It came out, and I was almost in tears because I could not eat it. Every time I tried picking up some meat or some vegetables with the fork to put it on the taco, it would just fall right off the fork because I had the shake so much. And it was too hot to use my fingers. Otherwise, I would have just used my fingers, and because that was the only way I could have done it. But it was too hot, so I actually had to ask a friend that was with me at the time to help me eat, to put the meat and the vegetables on the taco for me. And that to me was kind of like an all-time low during that point. Being so helpless and something so simple. And it was a side effect, thankfully, to some medication I was on. But a lot of weird things like that happened there, that I would have these random side effects to medications that were just so unheard of for that medication that doctors didn't even know that's what was causing it. I mean, there weren't even any documented cases, especially for what happened next. So instead of knowing that, hey, his shakes are being caused by medicine reaction, they thought I actually had Parkinson's. So they put me on Parkinson's medication. And when that didn't work, they didn't change medications, they just upped the dose. And they kept upping the dose and upping the dose. I'm actually lucky that I moved to Evansville, from Terre Haute to Evansville when I did, because it allowed me to get new doctors that were able to see what was going on. And around the time that I moved to Evansville, we moved in yet another haunted house, but this one was different. This is just a 200-year-old brick house, has its story. You guys will see more of that in the videos, but it wasn't so negative. Yeah, it has some weird things happening there and here and there. The basement feels dark and oppressive, but it wasn't near as negative as the house before. So what happened was, about 3 years ago, I not only had the severe shaking, but I lost my eyesight. I lost my eyesight. My eyesight actually got so bad. At first, it wasn't that bad. I just thought I had like my glasses had been scuffed up or something. I was having trouble seeing. I kept telling myself, yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. So I finally went to the eye doctor saying, I need new glasses. These are scuffed up. I can't see. They examined my eyes. And at the end of the examination, they actually asked me, has anybody ever told you that your eyes are so bad that the strongest lenses can't help? And I was so shocked. Um, I kind of knew it, but at the same time, it was denial. I wanted to deny it. And my eyes would only get worse. At that point, I could just barely see with the glasses I had. I could just barely see the big E on the letter chart. Uh, and it got worse. Basically, what happened was my cornea in my eye was not managing the liquid like it should. So I was living in a constant state of fog. Imagine the worst fog you have ever seen. Like if you've been out walking in the fog or driving in the fog and you can't see like 5 feet in front of you. Now imagine that was only like an inch in front of you and you can't see. That's how bad my vision was. I could see shapes, but I couldn't make out any details. I was legally blind, and doctors didn't know what was causing it. They thought, worst case scenario, I would need a cornea transplant on both eyes. And even that procedure can be a bit iffy at times. About 6 months into it, I hit a new low point. I was accustomed to doing things like watching TV, watching Netflix, playing video games all the time. That was my life. I had gotten so secluded in Terre Haute that my life was the computer. And all of a sudden that was taken away from me to where I physically couldn't do that anymore. I could be sitting an inch away from the screen and I still could not read. I still could not make out any details of a movie. I mean, my phone was useless. All I could do was hope and pray that I'd push the right button to answer a call. Then that 4th of July, I remember emotionally breaking down because I realized that I could possibly never see fireworks again. And it's amazing me that something as little as that just makes the whole situation sit in. I started having hallucinations. Now, I've talked to various doctors about these, and basically the essence of what the doctors and I have come up with is that my mind was used to seeing, but with my eyes suddenly to where all I could see was general shapes, my mind was filling in for my eyes, or at least trying to. And at first it was just kind of innocent hallucinations like waves, and I would look up at the ceiling tiles and could see like the ceiling tiles start to move and be all wavy, and it was kind of like the only thing I can compare it to at that point is I've never taken drugs, but if I imagine what taking LSD was like, that would have been it. That trippy vibe. Now, something happened, and I started getting really depressed. My mood started getting really dark, and that's when the hallucinations started changing because my mind kind of shifted. I started giving up hope, and these hallucinations started changing from innocent, kind of loopy things to horrifying, like absolutely horrifying. I would look up at my ceiling fan and I would see this huge snake just wrapped around my ceiling fan, like coming down at me, like kind of preying on me. And I would look up at the ceiling sometimes and just see these black blobs that for some reason scared the crap out of me, even though they were just black blobs. They would shoot from my ceiling down at me and like would effectively like land on my face or land on me, and that just scared the crap out of me. I was at a breaking point. I was past a breaking point, both mentally and physically. Um, I got so down that I very nearly did something catastrophic. And that's part of why I'm telling this story to you guys, because um, I know there may be people out there that have experienced something similar and are at that point of giving up. Hope's not lost. Hope is never lost. You know, hope could be right around the next corner. Don't give up. My life is so much better now than even before, because of that situation that I went through. Um, so back to, I guess, what revitalized my efforts into the paranormal. These nightmarish visions were so bad that I was losing my mind. One night, I actually had a vision that was unlike the others. That night, I actually had a vision that was unlike any other visions. Um, it's a crystal clear image of this woman walking through my door and walking in the room. And I knew nobody was home. And once again, she didn't make noises like a person. Like, I couldn't hear her breathing. I couldn't feel or hear her footsteps. And at this point in time, because I had lost my eyesight, this had been about a year and 3 months or so of not having my eyesight. My hearing had kind of started getting more accurate, more detailed. So I would have heard her footsteps on the hardwood floor, even though I think she was barefoot. She had long black hair that just shone. I mean, it was really shiny. She had like these beautiful crystal blue eyes, really pale skin. She was wearing this kind of lacy black, but also flowing dress that just kind of glowed. And from her, it was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, because I don't know how, but from her I could just sense like imminent power just radiating off of her. It's hard to explain. I've never felt anything like that before or since. Just that feeling, that of raw power. The closest I can come to that is just being at an aquarium and seeing a shark, a full-grown shark, like on the other side, and imagining being in the water in front of it. That sense of awe-inspiring, like I just felt and kind of knew that if she just had to snap her fingers and my life was over, basically, type of feeling. It sounds silly to some, I know, but could it have been my mind? Yeah, it could have been my mind playing more tricks on me. Um, but this was unlike anything, any other vision, anything I've ever been through in my life. Now, at that time, she didn't speak to me because obviously, if it was my mind, I wasn't at the point where I was hearing audible hallucinations. You know, my ears worked fine. Um, she just kind of stared at me for a moment, turned around, and walked away, walked back out my door, more kind of glided. Um, it was a very graceful walk. I mean, it wasn't gliding as if she was floating in the air or anything. It was more of a very kind of graceful, purposeful stride. Uh, kind of like a predator strides, I guess, like a lion or something. You know how their strides, there's no, every stride has a purpose. I could, it was almost as if maybe that's why she emitted that raw power, because it was almost as if every muscle in her body she was in control of. She moved with purpose. That night I was able to get some sleep finally, and just heard a noise that could have been someone here. Maybe, maybe not. Am I getting someone's attention? There are people downstairs, but the noise I heard was on this floor, and I don't think they're on this floor. So that night, I finally got to bed, and I got some sleep, and I dreamt of her. Or as I like to think of it, she came to me in my dreams. And in my dreams, she actually spoke to me. She told me that she could not only take away the hallucinations, but that she could heal my eyes. Now, looking back, if that was something paranormal, I should have been more weary, because I kind of knew about deals that could be made and stuff like that. But I was so desperate, I was willing to give anything a try. And it didn't even cross my mind of, hey, this could have side effects down the line. This could be something you don't want. It didn't even cross my mind. I was like, yeah, sure. And she didn't say, well, I'll do this for that. She didn't make terms, and I think that's what made me jump on it. So about a month of that happening, actually I think it was about 2 weeks of that happening, my visions went away. Or the horrifying visions went away. Now, I would still see like the wavy stuff, and the trippier stuff got even trippier. I remember looking at the wall one day, seeing an eye, like a human eye, very large in the wall. And I was just kind of staring at it, and it was staring back at me. And as I stared at it, it was almost as if it was on a computer screen or something, and somebody zoomed in and kept zooming in and kept zooming in. it got to the point to where it zoomed in so much that it felt like it was sucking me into the image, as if I was all of a sudden this tiny blood vessel traveling through, or this tiny blood cell traveling through a blood vessel. I mean, it was unlike anything. Like, it was very trippy, very hypnotic, and it was almost like I was traveling through someone's body, if that makes sense. And uh, that to this day, that and the woman, those two hallucinations above all the others stick out. Uh, what actually snapped me out of, I guess I was kind of in a hypnotic stage. I was so focused on this experience with the eye and traveling what it felt like through a body, um, or through somebody else's body. Um, my little dog, his name is Shadow. He's a pit bull terrier mix, and he's a huge cuddle bug, and he's also kind of an empath emotionally. He knows when something's bothering me. Him and my late dog that I had, a German Shepherd named Alex, were probably the two main reasons I'm alive today, that I didn't make drastic decisions. They are what kept me going. And I know my family, yeah, I had family. I had my mother, my stepdad, and everything all supporting me, and I'm very grateful for that. But what kept me around was, even though in the back of my mind I kind of knew that the dogs would be taken care of if something happened to me, I kept telling myself, my dogs need me. They need me. They can't be without me. And that kept me going. So if any of you are going through a hard time, that may be something to consider. Having a pet that depends on you is an anchor. So, anyways, what snapped me out of this hypnotic stage I was in with this eye and this traveling through another person's body type experience was my little dog Shadow was up on the bed next to me, and all of a sudden I got the sense that, hey, my arm's hurting, and that kind of snapped me out of it. Come to find out, my dog Shadow was sitting beside me, clawing at my arm to a degree that it actually drew blood, and his nails weren't sharp at the time. He had been there clawing at my arm for a while because he knew something was off, something wasn't right. Yeah, at that point he was probably accustomed to me just staring blankly at the wall or at the doorknob or whatever, but something about this experience in particular, this is the only time he's ever done that. Hasn't done that to that degree before or to that degree since. He knew something was up. And he snapped me out of it. And that was the last vision I had. From then on, my mind didn't play tricks on me, I guess, anymore. The visions went away after that one. And about 2 months after that, the doctors found out, hey, this vision problem you're having is a very super rare, like undocumented side effect of the Parkinson medication you've been on. They put you on such a high dose to try to avoid your shakes, and it's still not helping. We think we think it's causing this to happen in your eyes. And I'm like, well, it's not helping anyway. Let's just come off of it. They're like, well, we can't make that decision. We're only eye doctors. Other doctor needs to make that decision. And I'm like, well, he's in Terre Haute. I'm in Evansville. It's a 3-hour drive. I haven't really seen him in like 6 months or so. I've been taking this medication still. I've seen him since then, but it's been on video, like video calls and stuff. And so at that point in time, I made the decision for myself, whether it was, I like to think it's a good one, but I do not recommend doing this for anybody else, to stop taking medications without a doctor's order. I just knew what the eye doctors were telling me, that this medication was badly affecting my eyes, or at least they were about 70% sure that it was this medication. Now, they couldn't say whether the damages were permanent or they would come back, my eyesight would come back or not, but they were pretty certain that this was the cause of it. So after speaking with my family, I kind of made the decision and was supported to stop taking that medication. I didn't go cold turkey. I kind of knew better than that. So I kind of, at first, I halved my dose. I didn't want to go cold turkey and then have a bunch of side effects from going cold turkey. That's the worst thing you can do on medication. So I kind of weaned myself off of it. And after taking my last pill of that medication, my eyesight was back almost to normal within a month and a half. I'm very thankful for that. I have very minor damage still, and that usually comes every once in a while if the environment around me is just right. My eyes will get a little bit foggier than some people's eyes do. Like if there's a lot of moisture in the air, or if the atmosphere is like changing from being, if I'm driving long distances, from going from real moist to real dry, my eyes kind of act up with that. But that's something I can live with. That's not a big change. So I'm very thankful for that. Now, skeptically, I can look at that and say, was it just timing and coincidence? Did the doctors that I had for a year and a half finally just make this breakthrough? It could have been. Could my mind have been playing tricks on me the whole time, even with the woman and with that last vision I had? Yeah, could have been. But could it have been something else? Could it have been something paranormal? Yeah, it could have been that too. I just don't know. So I'll kind of leave that out there for you guys to decide. Was that paranormal, or was it just doctors finally getting it right after try after try after try? I mean, there were times that my shakes were so bad when I would go to the eye doctor that they had trouble doing the test that they needed to do. They would have to get a nurse or someone else back there to strap my head down and hold my head still enough to take images of my eye, because my head was like shaking. And so perhaps that's why they were hesitant with the surgery. They were afraid that even under anesthetic, I would still have these shakes. And when they're operating on something as fragile as the eye, one tiny shake can be a catastrophe. So that's why they were kind of hesitant with the surgery. They were laying it out there as an option before, but they were like, we don't know what's going to happen. Now, they did find out that the shakes were actually a side effect of a antidepressant that I was on. And so basically what happened was I was on too high of a dose of an antidepressant, and that was making me shake, and it just got worse and worse over time to the point where they thought I had Parkinson's, and they gave me a medicine to treat a side effect of another medicine. And that medicine gave me an even worse side effect. Again, could that have been just a freak coincidence? Yeah, but could living in that house of Terre Haute by myself for those 2 years have, when everybody else that I know that has lived there, even the prior owners, had major unexplained health issues in that house? It's possible. I'm not going to rule it out either way. I like to try to keep an open mind. The way I think about things now is I'm a believer, but I'm skeptic. I'm not going to truly believe until something shows itself in a way that I can't doubt, that I can't explain away in any way. So that kind of revamped my scenario into the paranormal. When I got better, I started studying the paranormal renewed with a vigor. I actually got involved in another paranormal group, and everything went fine for a while. I'm not going to name this paranormal group because I don't want to cause issues for them or myself. There was a supposed medium in this group, medium and empath. And the way she would explain her abilities is that she couldn't really even go to a mall, because it was like when she was around a group of people, she would be feeling everybody's energy, everybody's emotions, like just raw emotions. And from the time that they interviewed me from this group, she looked at me and she's like, I like you, I need you around more often. I'm like, okay, why? She's like, you walked in the room and all of that, it was like someone put a cold blanket on me. It's like all of that just poof went away. And I was like, that's interesting. I guess I was kind of her abilities kryptonite in that way. But it got kind of frustrating on investigations for her and for me, because I was interested in working with a medium to kind of open myself up to see if, hey, could I have lingering effects from these visions and stuff? Could I open myself up to these things? But I couldn't work with her because she would go into a supposed haunted place and she couldn't get a read on anything with me in the building. I would have to go outside and across the street for her to be able to feel stuff and to get a reading. Now, granted, yeah, some of her readings were accurate, but also her husband was the leader of the group and was privy on all the information that we researched prior. She didn't want to know any of the information, but her husband knew it all. Could they have been communicating behind the scenes to make her look like a medium? That's a possibility too. like I say, I'm kind of open-minded, but I'm also a skeptic now. I kind of like to say, hey, is that explainable? I don't know. I'd like to dig deeper. Um, so it got to the point with that group that they started noticing, actually, all of us started noticing that they would take me to these places that they had been before and they would get crazy activity. I would go in there and activity would kind of just plummet, would kind of just whittle out. And they're like, that's weird. Then a few investigations that we actually did get activity on the way home. By the time we got our equipment home and set up and everything, all of the memory cards were like fried, like wiped clean, like all of our evidence was gone. That was another strange thing. Um, then I was like, so I felt like I needed to kind of open up to them more. They were actually feeling more like friends at that point. So I opened up. I told them a lot of the same stuff that I'm telling you guys now. And their opinion of that and everything that I had been through and of the lady and everything and all the investigations that I had been with them, their opinion was that I had made a deal with a demon and that I needed an exorcism. Now, the leader of this group was also, put air quotes up here, a priest who basically got his priesthood off one of the online sites where you pay like $40-$50 to get your priesthood, whatever. Now, my grandfather was a preacher, and for preachers now to go to just some website and not have to really do anything, just pay money and become a preacher or a priest, that to me, it doesn't sit right. Because I know the work that my grandfather went through. I know what his schedule was like. I was there, I part-time lived with him as a kid. And I know how hard it was on him sometimes and the pressure he felt. Now, do I necessarily believe in those beliefs anymore? Maybe I'll get into that into another video, maybe not. Let me know what you guys want to know down in the comments on whether I should get heavy into what I actually believe in. All of this, I will say, has changed my beliefs. So when they told me, this group told me that they thought I needed an exorcism, I kind of laughed. I'm like, first of all, I'm not for sure or not if that was a demon. That could have just been explained away by scientific stuff, like my mind playing tricks on me, my mind sensing, kind of like when you're thinking of somebody really bad and they call the next day. That kind of, was that psychic? Sometimes our mind can do funny stuff like that. And I think that maybe my mind felt it was a time for a change, that I had passed my breaking point and perhaps was starting to try to heal itself. And maybe that's what it was. And it came in a guise that I felt comfortable with. That's a possibility to me. That seems like the likely possibility to me, but I'm not going to discount that it could have been a demon. I could have made a deal with the demon without knowing it. But my point to them was, okay, even if that was a demon, let's just say if that was a demon and I made a deal with it, it hasn't negatively impacted me at all. I'm not going to do an exorcism or something to push out that entity that has done nothing but help me. Could it be an attachment? A demon, even possibly? Maybe. But I wasn't going to sit there and laugh in its face and look a gift horse in the mouth and force it to go away. First of all, I was terrified that, hey, if this was a demon, if, say, this was a negative entity that I made a deal with, if I start trying to push it out, push it away, where does that leave my eyesight? Could my eyesight go back to getting worse again for some freak thing all of a sudden again? That's not a risk I'm willing to take. Especially since this thing, if it is a thing, hasn't negatively impacted me. And when I explained all this to them, it was kind of like a flip was switched. They cut me out of their lives, they cut me out of their group. This devastated me. Not only did I consider them pretty well family at this point, I mean, their kids would call me Uncle Alan. That's how frequently I would be over there and helping them and spending time with them. And for them to just cut me out like that because they thought I had this dark entity around me and they didn't want to influence, or they didn't want to themselves around that energy. To me, that's fickle people being fickle. So from that point, it's like, where do I go? I started looking back at going back to college. I tried going to college before in Terre Haute, and it just didn't work. I have social anxiety for one, and my social anxiety would kick in. I'm a high functioning autistic, and among other things, all this kind of made traditional learning hard for me. I was smart, like, in up until last semester in the school and in college. I've never had a class where I've actually had to study. I would just show up for class, do what the instructor said, but most of the time I would never even read the books. I would just listen in class, take notes in class a little bit here and there, and that was it. I would get B's and A's doing that, and a lot of times I would get bored of classes, and that's where the problem got. Once I would get bored of a class, once I would get bored of a class, my attention just went elsewhere. And I started getting bad grades in that class. And once I got bad grades in that class, I'm like, well, there's no fixing this now. And I kind of gave up. This time in college, I wanted things to be different. So I did a lot of research, did a lot of soul searching on what I wanted to do. And a couple scenarios popped up in my mind. It's like, hey, I really like paranormal and I really like horror films. Why don't I get a degree in film and video? So I started doing research and I found Full Sail University. Now, Full Sail is, at least their online programs are a bit different. Instead of taking 4 to 6 classes at once during a whole semester, you take one class at a time, and that one class lasts 1 month. And every month you take a new class. You don't really have breaks. I don't have a summer break. Um, it's a advanced degree. I mean, it's an accelerated degree, I guess are the words. I'm a little over halfway through my bachelor's degree now. I have a year and 5 months before I graduate. So I am doing really great, doing better than ever in college. And I think a large part of that has to do with Full Sail and their way of doing things. It just matches my personalities and my abilities so much that I'm able to get things done in a way that satisfies me, in a way where I'm learning. Um, a few months ago was probably the first class that I had to where I struggled hard, to where I actually had to teach myself to study. Um, I still managed to get an A in it somehow, some way. That still surprises me. But I managed to pull off an A, and this was kind of like the hell month of classes. You know, this was their baptism by fire class that they warned us about like months ahead of time to prepare ourselves for, because half the people that go into this class fail this class and then either end up changing their degree or dropping out. That's how hard this particular class is. And what it is basically we get our new Sony FX cameras right before this class. And this class is a very fast, very hardcore pace, learning the ins and out of that camera. As a student for our film projects, we're not allowed to have any setting in auto setting. We have to do everything manual, from focus to shutter speed to everything. We have to have the lights set up right. I mean, it was just an intense class. And it's probably one of the proudest moments I've had, completing that class with an A. It's probably one of the hardest things I've had to do, educational and professional wise, so far. And I decided I'm really busy with college right now. I don't have time to be in a paranormal group anyway. So why don't I just do the paranormal thing alone for a while? I mean, after all these groups I've been in, all the research I've done kind of leads towards you get more activity the less people you have. It's more scary the less people you have. I like that adrenaline rush of being scared. That's another thing that attracts me to the paranormal, is that adrenaline rush. So why not do it alone? It just seemed like a obvious light bulb moment. So I started doing some paranormal investigations alone, and I started collecting supposed haunted items. I would get them from anywhere from Etsy to eBay to stuff that I found doing Randonautica that just kind of had a creepy vibes to them. I have a collection of items that are supposedly haunted or have creepy vibes to them that I'm going to be investigating on this channel and letting you guys decide, is it haunted? Is it not? The jury's going to be out on that. So exactly where is this channel going to go? Because I have an affinity for both the paranormal and the horror side of things. But yet I don't want to be one of those paranormal investigators that fake stuff for good content. So it took me months of thinking, going back and forth. Do I want to fake or do I want to be real? Do I want to go for the scare or do I want to kind of be boring at times? And I was like, why can't I do both? Why can't I go to infamous places like Indiana State Sanatorium, do a legitimate uh, investigation to where I'm trying to debunk everything that happens, and then maybe later on in the night or the next night do a second video of horror film genre that is more scripted, that is more fake, door slamming, stuff like that that doesn't normally happen. And then, while I'm at it, why not do a third video that's a behind the scenes footage showing you guys exactly how the second video was accomplished, how I made the door slams, how I did this, or how I made an object move or a piece of equipment piece go off on my own. That way, I'm not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. You know that, hey, this first part of the video may be a bit boring because it's your usual paranormal investigation. It's me trying to debunk everything, think things rationally. Every once in a while, I may get a jump scare. My adrenaline may go through the roof. You may see that. But then I start to think things through. I try to investigate what happened, try to go towards it, and we'll see what goes from there. And then in that same place, I kind of want to rocket everything up to make the activity more than what it is, with a huge disclaimer that, hey, this second portion is not real. This second portion is what people think paranormal investigation is. And then the third part, obviously, showing everything that happened and how it was done. And that also gives me a way to debunk things without pointing people out, because I like some of the debunkers on YouTube, but I don't like how they do things. I'm very non-controversial. I don't like conflict. Controversial was the wrong word. I don't like conflict. And for me to point out a channel and say, hey, you guys faked this, you guys faked that, I don't know. I wasn't there with them. It would be wrong of me to say that. And stuff like that can hurt that person. I don't want to be a cyberbully. So instead, what I'm doing is putting my own content out there and debunking myself. That way, it kind of avoids, hopefully, anybody getting hurt feelings, stuff like that. Now, this may not be everybody's cup of tea, because this is Untold Paranormal, and part of it is going to be exploring where other channels that are real don't want to explore. I'm open for stuff like Ouija boards, rituals, seances, demonic stuff. If you want to see something that is not on other paranormal, your traditional paranormal episodes or YouTube channels, you want to see something that's real and the results, and then after that, maybe what most people think is going to happen, a dramatized version. A dramatized version. A dramatized version. Let me know. Comment down below what you guys want to see. And whether it's opening a Dybbuk box, anything. I mean, I am at the point to where I am kind of on the fence of whether I believe or not. I like to tell myself I'm a believer, but until something happens that undoubtedly, like, where I can't doubt it in my mind at all, that it is absolutely 100% paranormal, until that happens, I can't honestly say I'm a believer. Yeah, I've had paranormal experiences, I think, but I can kind of explain them away a bit, so it's not that one piece of evidence that I'm looking for. And I'm willing to go to almost any length to get that evidence, to get that experience. Any length that is, it's got to be within the YouTube's terms and services. I'm not going to post anything on here that goes against that. It's got to be legal, and it's got to be physically safe. But besides that, if you want to see something, post it down in the comments. So I think that's a bit all for now. I will see you guys later tonight when I'm investigating this place, and perhaps you'll see some dramatized stuff too. We'll see. This is Alan with Untold Paranormal, out.